After 3 weeks without a chapter and 2 weeks of break, the Hajime no Ippo manga is finally back, and it's back with everything. We got a long chapter this time, a full 16 pages, finally a decent length. Sometimes the author gets us used to very short chapters, or ones where the story barely moves forward at all. This chapter starts exactly where we left off, with the fight between Sendo and Ricardo Martinez. The narrator says, "The first round of the WBA featherweight world title fight is heating up. How will Sendo respond to Ricardo's relentless punches?" And something really important about this chapter is that it doesn't only focus on the fight itself, it also shows us the commentators. And even though most of the chapter has a humorous tone, I think there's something deeper hiding underneath, starting with Date's commentary. He says, "Ricardo always takes his time to gauge his opponent's speed and reach. This is something never seen before. I'm telling you, no one saw it coming. Even the world champion, who conquered 2 weight classes sitting next to me, is speechless." That's what Date tells us, and right there I want to pause. There was a lot of controversy about some of these lines, since in some translations things felt off. So I went back to the Japanese version to verify a few details. And it's understandable that confusion happened. After all, Morikawa is human, and this wouldn't be the first time he's made a mistake like this. He's done it before, like when he mistakenly drew Vorg Zangief with a WBA championship belt, even though it was supposed to be the IBF. More recently, he initially mentioned Marcus Rosario as the WBA champion, only to change it later to the WBC. Honestly, I have no idea why that change mattered so much to the author, but it's not the first time something like this happens. Then we get to the chapter title, and again, I went back to the Japanese version because the translation in various releases didn't make much sense. The original title reads Genkotsu Isen, which most faithfully translates to a devastating punch or a single crushing blow. So it's clear that it's referring to the punches of the challenger, Takeshi Sendo. Next, we get Takamura's response, who says Ricardo is going all in from the start to show the difference in level between them. A clear reference to Ricardo being driven more by ego than anything else, trying to crush Sendo early and prevent him from setting the pace. To which Date replies that Ricardo isn't like that. He's not that temperamental. He must have a very good reason to fight that way, even if it means risking all his energy early on. I see. So his style is based on analyzing every detail, someone says. And while that might work on paper, if you don't know how to apply it, you'll get crushed in a flash. In the ring, it's about fists, not your head. And Date answers, well, to use your fists properly, you also need your head. This becomes a full-blown argument between Takamura and Date, since they see the fight completely differently. But of course, we as readers can understand the bigger picture better, so let's break down their perspectives. Date is surprised. He doesn't understand what's happening, because it's true, Ricardo usually uses the first round to analyze his opponent. He rarely takes the initiative, but that's because Date doesn't grasp Ricardo's true fighting style. He visualizes the whole fight in his head before it even begins. He already has a plan. He knows how his opponent is likely to behave, and he uses the first round, or more, like in his fight with Wally, to test if his predictions were correct. If they're even slightly off, he adjusts. But with Sendo, he couldn't predict him at all. He couldn't form a mental image. So he decided to fight right away. There was nothing to analyze, no data to process, no calculations to correct. All he could do was jump into the mud and trade blows, hoping that fighting him directly might help him understand him. It also makes sense that Takamura interpreted Ricardo's aggression as ego-driven, because that's exactly how he would act. If Takamura were to face someone like Sendo, with his wild aura and bloodlust. He'd want to put him in his place. He'd want to turn that wild animal into a tame little pet. That brings us back to the question, do you need to use your head to throw good punches? Well, both are right. Takamura's perspective matches Sendo's fighting style perfectly. He fights purely on instinct, no thinking involved. Whereas Date's view that good punches come from the head matches Ricardo's style, who is constantly analyzing. Second by second, he's thinking, what punch works best? What will my opponent do next? Jab, hook, left, right? So really, the ones fighting over ego here are the commentators, back to the ring. Ricardo continues his attack, raining blows on Sendo's guard, but Sendo blocks a jab with his right hand without trouble and launches a counter. This surprises Ricardo and Ippo and Miyata, watching from the stands. At that moment, Sendo thinks, I'll throw 100 punches. If I can land just one, that one punch will drop him. We then get a spectacular double-page spread, and honestly, not enough is said about how much aura Sendo is generating chapter after chapter. It's a masterpiece of a panel. Even though my artist did an incredible job coloring it for the thumbnail, I still feel like there's no way to truly do justice to Morikawa's original drawing. Someone good at editing needs to make a TikTok or a reel of Sendo farming aura in this fight. This scene comes with one of Sendo's classic lines. They really hurt, these knuckles of mine. It's a line packed with flavor, because in the original Japanese, Sendo says this in Kansai dialect, the original speech from where he's from. In manga and anime, Kansai Ben is often used to add comedic charm, attitude, or a gritty edge to a character. And this line, it's been his signature catchphrase since he was a teenager, right before he throws a devastating punch. Ricardo realizes the blow coming is a smash, but since his jab was just blocked, he doesn't have time to counter or react. All he can do is brace himself and use both hands to block, and not enough is said about the look of concern in Ricardo's eyes as he sees that fist coming. The impact is so powerful, so savage, that Ricardo's body is lifted completely off the canvas. You can see in the detailed drawing, his whole body is trembling like when you strike a metal rod and it vibrates for seconds afterward. The lead commentator goes wild after seeing the smash explode against Ricardo's guard. A single powerful blow was enough to stop Ricardo's entire barrage, sending the crowd into a frenzy over how strong Sendo really is. The commentator shouts that Ricardo is dead wrong if he thinks weak jabs can stop the tiger. Back in the stands, Mari is shocked at what she's witnessing, and so are Ippo and Miyata, sweating cold. Even though Ricardo stood his ground and blocked it with both hands, he was still thrown back. Miyata thinks, this is nothing like what he showed during sparring. This is something else entirely. This brings us back to what Date and Takamura said earlier. Remember, Miyata explained that during all their sparring sessions, Sendo was trying to fight smart, to strategize, to box like a proper world-class fighter. And it wasn't enough. Miyata even said multiple times that Sendo never even touched him. But now, Sendo is hitting Ricardo's guard with ease, just seconds into the first round. If Sendo had fought like this against Miyata, like Takamura said, without thinking, he probably would have hurt Ippo's beloved rival. After being knocked back, Ricardo prepares to advance again. His fists are trembling. He remembers his student, Nargo, who once faced Sendo and warned Ricardo about him. Now he gets it. Those tiger fangs are sharp, and they're fast, especially with 8-ounce gloves. Facing them after just one look, that's madness. In case this dialogue wasn't clear, Ricardo had a previous sparring with Sendo where he dodged every single punch. But since then, Sendo has improved dramatically, and in sparring, gloves are heavier, meaning slower punches. That's why he mentions 8-ounce gloves. They're much faster and more dangerous. This is the author's way of explaining why Ricardo didn't counter that punch. It was just too fast. Trying and failing to counter that smash could have cost him the whole fight. Sendo continues to press forward, throwing wide, predictable punches. They're easy to dodge for Ricardo, who simply uses footwork to avoid them. But Sendo is so deep in instinct, he charges forward with his head exposed, taking a jab to the face, his head snapping back. However, what the commentator didn't notice is that Sendo had turned his neck, so the jab didn't hurt him at all. His eyes are full of fire as he looks back at Ricardo and goes on the attack. Yes, this is the same technique that Date once used, something he developed from years of combat, and Sendo has probably developed it now too, from instinct and repetition. He's faced high-level jabs before, from unknown Mexican boxers to names like Nargo, Alfredo Gonzalez, and even Ricardo, so it's no surprise that he's now reacting like a conditioned animal. All these little improvements, all these movements, they catch Ricardo off guard. That's why he couldn't dodge the next blow, a right punch that Sendo lands directly on Ricardo's guard. And again, every time Sendo hits Ricardo's guard, Ricardo's whole body shakes. Even though he blocks them, they do more damage than a simple jab. Of course, by the time Sendo throws his next left, Ricardo is already ready and dodges, then lands a jab. The pattern continues. Sendo's terrifying fists graze Ricardo's head, but Ricardo's left is the one that finds the mark. Back with the commentators, Date says, Ricardo's left is the only punch landing. He's clearly ahead on points, and even if it's just one left, it's deadly. But even so, Sendo keeps pressing forward without losing rhythm, showing that both of them are holding back. I also love that Date finally acknowledges Sendo's skills. It was about time. To me, there's no doubt that the current Sendo is far stronger than the Date who fought Ricardo. Not necessarily as a boxer, technically Date is superior, but in a real fight, Sendo would wipe the floor with him. That's just my opinion. What do you think? Date finishes by saying, unless Ricardo can stop Sendo, he's going to lose this. For now, it's impossible to say who has the upper hand. The Kansai commentator asks Takamura for his opinion. Takamura basically repeats the same thing with a smug gigachad face, mocking Date to his face, which Morikawa likely added for comic relief. Their discussion continues as the audience watches in awe, and the chapter ends right here. They announce that the next chapter will come with a color cover. That really excites me. Most likely it'll be the cover for the next volume, the one including this fight. I'm curious to see who's featured. Ippo often appears even in fights that aren't his, but personally I'd love to see Ricardo and Sendo on that cover, and if they're wearing the outfits they walked to the ring in, even better. Hopefully Morikawa surprises us. Sometimes his color pages contain hints about the future. And that's it for today. Honestly, I think we went deep with this one. I'm really happy with this chapter. There's a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss. Remember to subscribe for more reviews, breakdowns, and analysis of this manga. Good night, champ.